Hey year 10s, hope you're all okay. So this is a follow-up or a preparation lesson for your assessment. So in your books, if you can write down assessment preparation, and all you'll need for this lesson is your exercise book and pen. We're going to talk through some ideas about command words. So we started doing that in the Zoom but weren't able to finish it. So I'll go through those and then I'll show you some examples of good writing, things for you to think about. And then I'll talk through the 8 marker that is in your assessment. I'll give you a minute to write that down. Pause the video if you need a bit more time. Okay, so we're talking through villains today and thinking about command words and the importance of those command words. So we listed 4 villains, so many of you were able to just talk through and mention those villains. As I said, when we list, we don't need to give any extra details. We don't need to say what they look like. We don't need to explain why they're villains. We just need to say, in this case, list 4 of the villains. So we just name them. Okay, so Scar, Maleficent, Joker, and so on. Okay. Describing is saying what you can see. So in these particular cases, you might say Voldemort is bald, he's very pale, he's got a strange nose, pointy ears, he wears black clothes. You're describing, saying what you can see in there. If we're applying it to our geography questions, you're likely to be given a describe for things like a graph or a map. And we want you to say what you can see in that case. So we've talked you through and we've sort of said PQE paragraphs are really important for your describe graphs or maps. So what is the pattern? Quantify it. So giving statistics, and then any exceptions. What doesn't quite fit in with the pattern. Next, we wanted you to explain why one villain might be considered bad. So we're giving reasons. Okay, so you might say the Joker might be considered bad because he goes around killing people, and obviously this is a fairly terminal thing, so that's obviously bad. One other thing is that he doesn't really care who he kills. He's indiscriminate about his killing, and that might make him even more evil or bad. So think about explaining. You're going into detail about that particular thing, and what we try to get you to do in your geography exams is to go that bit further. Think about and so what. Okay, so you put in your little answer, and then you're going to think, and so what? Add a little bit of extra detail. And so what? Add a bit more detail. Okay, so all of those things, you're extending your answer, making sure you're getting the marks that are needed. Assess. Assess is going to be your 8-mark questions. So there are 2 types of 8-mark questions, assess and then evaluate, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But assess is looking at weighing up the significance of things. So you might say, who could we do? Captain Hook is bad because he tries to capture the lost boys, and that makes him bad because obviously we want children to have freedom and so on. Then you could compare that to the Joker and say because he is indiscriminate about his killing, that makes him even more evil because we don't know who he's going to kill. He doesn't even have a reason for killing them, which makes it more significant. Okay, so in geography, if we apply the same thing, we want to think about how significant those factors are. Okay, so each time you're saying what the factor is, and then saying this is really significant because of these reasons, or this is less significant because of these reasons. Okay, I always think by starting off a paragraph with the most significant factor is this, helps you to get you on your way. Okay. And then your last type of question that you might have is an evaluate. Okay, evaluate is thinking about giving a conclusion. Okay, so with our villains, you might say, talk through a couple of examples, and then say, well, actually, overall, I think the most evil, or the one who's had the biggest impact on people is, well, be honest, I think it's Joker, or you could go Darth Vader, I don't know. But give some form of conclusion. Okay, if you don't give that conclusion in your exams, you won't be able to access the highest marks. Okay, so make sure you remember those for your assessments. So I'm giving you here an example of appeal paragraph when we think about our baddies. So appeal paragraph, we're identifying where. So if you can go through this sort of paragraph, think about where we're doing our appeal paragraph. So the question would be, evaluate the extent to which Voldemort is the best villain. Well, I want you to read through that paragraph and just think to yourself, where's the point? Where's the evidence? Where's the explanation of why that evidence answers the question? And then where's the link back? Okay, so pause this video and just to yourself break down the paragraph so that you can know where the sections of the appeal paragraph is. Okay, so there's your answer. So I've broken it down for you. Point is, obviously there's strong evidence to suggest that Voldemort is the best villain. Our evidence for that is one of the most significant factors that makes Voldemort a villain is that he's quite happy to kill children. We're going to then explain why that makes him particularly bad. So the reason this makes him a villain is that in some cases you might understand villains killing other adults as they may have contributed to the situation. However, children are innocent and so shouldn't be killed. Then we link it back. Okay. Alright, so in your assessment, this is the question, the 8-mark question that we're going to look at. So it says, analyse the information in figure 7, which shows the percentage of population of England and Wales born outside the UK based on the 2011 census data. So remember, census is that survey that they do every 10 years. Very exciting for geographers is that it's going to happen this year too, so you guys will be able to answer your questions about you. But the question says, assess the causes of variations in the distribution shown in figure 7. Okay, so what I'd like you guys to do is just think about what are the key aspects of this question. So you might write that down in your book and just highlight or have a think about those. Pause the video for you guys to do that. Okay, so some of the key things, obviously we're looking at assessing the causes. Okay, so we're going to weigh up the significance of the causes. Which causes are bigger than the other ones? Okay, which causes are less significant than the others? Okay, we can look at the variations in the distribution. So why do some areas have lots of immigrants and why do some areas have fewer immigrants? Okay, so we need to demonstrate that we can read the map. Okay, and that's where your thing like PQE comes in. You can say, you know, what's the pattern? How can we quantify it? And then are there any exceptions? And then obviously we're talking about migration. Okay, if people are born outside of the UK, they have come to the UK as an immigrant. Okay. So this is the actual map that we're looking at, and as I said, you'll need to be able to engage with this. So in your answer, you're going to firstly start off by talking about what the pattern is. So where are the concentrations of migrants and where there are fewer migrants? Okay, you might think about a couple of patterns that occur here. Then you're going to quantify it. So you're going to use the key and you're going to give us some statistics. So not only the key in terms of the percentages, but also think about the number of areas that have those that level of immigration to them. And then finally think about any exceptions. So this paragraph at the start of your answer is probably going to be three lines. It doesn't need to be a huge amount of detail, but just shows to the examiner that you can pick out some patterns and use statistics from the map. Okay, so the next step in your answer is to think about, well, what are the causes of this pattern? So some of you might have picked out that there's concentrations in the southeast around London. Okay, so think about why are lots of people coming to London in particular. Think about maybe its location. So we talked about its site and situation. Why is that so important? You might think about the types of jobs and so on. Okay, and then think about why they might not go to other areas. So in your books you might write down a couple of causes as part of your plan for this essay. Give you a minute to do that. Pause this video. And then we want you to think about how significant those are. Okay, so really thinking, well, is this a really important factor in causing that particular pattern of distribution, or is it not so important? Okay, so have a think about, you might want to rank your causes in an order so that you can have that as a structure to your essay. Okay, so you might have thought about things like the type of jobs that go on. You might have thought about multicultural areas or clusters we've mentioned, and then you might have thought about the destination. So, for example, urban versus rural. Okay, but in terms of how we can assess, you might think about the time scale. So, is it long-term or short-term migration? So, if people are migrating to places like Norfolk, which we've mentioned before, for fruit picking, are they there for the whole time or is it short time? Think about, why do most people migrate? What is the biggest cause of it? Is it, the destination itself? Is it the type of jobs? Is it to see family or friends? Think about what are the main drivers of that migration compared to others. And those are things that make it more or less significant. In your answer, we kind of expect to see 3 or 4 paragraphs. Okay, in those paragraphs, we want to demonstrate the geographical skills by reading the map, so using data from there, talking about specific places, using compass directions, things like that. Then we want to discuss different causes of the pattern, okay, and also the significance of those causes. Why some areas or some causes are really important and others are less. And then we want to see some field paragraphs. Okay, so what's your point, some evidence, explanation, and then a link back. Okay, but I'm going to upload the assessment now, and then hopefully you guys can get on with that in today's lesson. All the best. See you soon.